And welcome to episode 10, Grip the Grain. We have a very special episode today. It is our first ever mom episode.
Yeah.
Basically, Mother of the Month. We're going to attempt to do it every month. We would like to do it every month, but
Ideally.
ideally, but Mother of the Month, and
Assuming the world doesn't have.
The reason for it is because if you are a parent and you're listening, if you are a male parent and you're listening, if you're a father, it is something that we will never understand. Being pregnant, being carrying a baby. I know it sounds super fun.
Except for that one movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
He evidently knows.
Yeah. I forgot the name of that movie, but thanks for derailing me.
Right? That's what I do.
So this is a very special episode because my mother was my best friend, and she passed away roughly 10 years ago, and I don't think there was a single greater person on this planet. And a lot of my best qualities, which are not many, they're due to her. And I just want to highlight how wonderful we feel mothers are.
Sure.
It's very important. And we feel
Everyone
like
has a mom.
we feel like, especially in the pandemic and with everything that's been happening, mothers have a fucking crazy role outside of maintaining everything in the household, you know, doing everything for their partners, for kids, family. They have to do everything and then take care of themselves. And sometimes they neglect themselves. And so today, for our very first mother, Yvette Halliday, one of my oldest friends, I've known her about, 8-10 years now, something like that, for a while. We haven't stayed in contact a lot, but because of social media, we get to, see everything. So I definitely thought about you. Most people who know me, especially if you've heard some of the previous episodes, you know that my son spent quite a bit of time in the NICU, and as a father, someone who is not the one that's carrying, the child, you don't really know when there's an emergency like that, and you can't feel. So I felt like it was very cool, and I felt like it was a very good idea to bring an actual mom on the show to give us insight and to help people, listeners out there, other moms who feel alone. It doesn't matter. You can literally have 5 kids and a husband or a girlfriend or whatever, and you can have a house full of people and still feel alone. And these are things. These are things that I've talked to people about, and I've got some perspective on. And the one thing that James and I, as 2 freaking dudes, do not want to do is overstep. And we don't want to pretend we know anything. We don't want to act like we get it, because we don't. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the first thing that we have to lay down on the table, because we don't. We don't get it. We never will. We can try to sit down and be patient and understand as best as we can. But I think the world should always hear it from the actual source. And so thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you are leaving your precious little one to spend some time to talk to us and to talk to all the listeners. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate Andrew and your family as well. So let's start off with, there's so many different things to talk about, but let's start off with your story. Let's start off with little sweet Queenie.
My little Queenie bear.
And we're going to try not to cry, okay?
Yeah, try is the key word.
I'm not drinking.
Fail,
you have
maybe.
a drink, you deserve it. I don't, because we just didn't prepare. But, because we don't have a staff, so we do our own shit, okay? So we forget to bring it, But, well, wherever your heart leads you, tell a story, and we'll ask questions. We've got no perspective as far as how deep you can pull and shoot from. You shoot from the hip, you can shoot from your heart, wherever. Just talk, and the listeners will listen, and we're ready to hear your story.
Yeah. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, well, so my husband and I have been together for almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. Our 2-year wedding anniversary is coming up in January.
Happy anniversary!
We made it through the first year.
Right.
And so we knew that we wanted to start a family pretty quickly. We had been together for, 7 years when we got engaged, and we never wanted to start a family until we were married. We wanted to have that foundation. We wanted to, do everything by the book, per se.
And then it's still not enough. No, just kidding.
Exactly.
It is. I'm just joking.
But we wanted to wait.
It's good to definitely plan.
And so we had planned, and we got very lucky. We were blessed. We literally, the first month after getting married, we conceived Quinn. And it's a good thing we waited till after we were married, because that could have happened very easily beforehand.
Sure.
Which, nobody knows if
they're
they're fertile or not fertile.
Sure.
Like, it's not something you ever know. So we were blessed. We were lucky.
It's very pure of you to say.
Yeah.
With my 3 kids.
Yes.
Yeah, but go ahead.
But the beginning of my pregnancy was super rough, and then it didn't end. So I got diagnosed with the hyperemesis gravidarum, which is
no idea what that means.
Extreme nausea, vomiting. It's like pregnancy
it's like the worst,
to a whole nother level.
It's the worst kind of pregnancy you can have.
So it's
right?
like morning sickness times 1,000.
Morning sickness is such a joke because it's all day sickness, all night sickness, no matter what you do.
Okay.
I ended up getting super sick. 6 weeks pregnant, I had to go to the ER. I had to get IV fluids because I was throwing up water. I couldn't keep anything down. I tried everything that you could think of. Then I had a UTI that spread to my kidneys, which led to an infection. I lost 12 pounds during that 30-day period of when I went from my first ER visit to my second ER visit. And then more IV fluids, more antibiotics. Then I ended up in the outpatient center for more IV fluids about 3 or 4 weeks later. And then my doctor was finally like, listen, there's this thing called Diclegis, which is a very expensive medication that Kim Kardashian took. It's like $500 for this medication. Luckily, my insurance covered it.
That's
so it was
lucky.
like $55 for it to allow me to keep stuff down.
Okay.
So my pregnancy, it worked.
Good.
It worked. If I missed a dose, though, I was screwed. Like that was it. I was done.
Never held on to something that works so tired.
I dropped that thing in the toilet once. I'm not gonna lie, and I picked it up and I washed it off and I swallowed it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can drop it in dog shit. I'm gonna pick it up.
I'm just like I can't waste it.
Right.
So my pregnancy, even though I was a healthy young, 27-year-old at the time, exercised, did everything right, I was still sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And I was working through it, but then I got to the point where I couldn't work anymore. I had to quit the job that I loved so much. I loved my boss. I was in the industry I wanted to be in. I was applying for my DPT to get my physical therapist license. I'm already a recreational therapist, and I wanted to pursue that, but I was so sick that I had to quit.
Okay.
Sucks,
and then I was presented with an opportunity during that time when I was in between jobs to become head of the dementia facility. It's like a 410-bed facility.
Wow.
I took the job as a supervisor. I was so sick that I couldn't keep the job. Like, I couldn't. I put in my notice, and then I didn't work for about a month and a half until the medication started working. Then finally I was able to go back to a job that I had worked when I was in college. They accepted me back with open arms, which is what's allowed me now to this day to be on disability because of having a relationship with them.
Right.
Get into that later.
Yeah.
But my pregnancy, we did all the proper things. I took all my prenatals. I went to all my visits. We did our scans. We did 3 or 4 different ultrasounds, did blood work, genetic testing. I mean, you name it, we were like, everything's golden, everything's good. In my entire pregnancy, oh my God, I'm gonna start crying.
That's okay. We sucked and did not grab tissues.
No, it's okay.
Because we're dudes and we didn't think about it.
My entire pregnancy, you're just like, I'm doing everything right. The doctor keeps saying that baby's healthy, And then when we got to my end of my pregnancy, I was like, all right, it's time. Quinn came at 38 weeks and 1 day. So she was a full-term baby.
Okay.
But I was in labor for 96 hours. So I went into labor October 31st, so Halloween 2019, and I didn't deliver her until November 4th.
Jesus
So I was in
Christ.
labor for a very long time.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the hospital until November 2nd. So I was in the hospital for those 2.5 days.
Why were
straight.
you not there the first?
Because I called
48?
my OB, and he had said, listen, if you can walk, you can talk, your water hasn't broken, labor at home as long as you can, because I like.
Were you trying to do it at home?
No. I was
Okay.
trying to labor at home as much as I could
Sure.
because I didn't want an epidural. I was like, hell no, I don't want an epidural. It has side effects. I have a back injury. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to risk anything. I didn't want to take any medications already than what I was taking. I'm just like, I wanted to go all natural.
And how far is too far after 48 hours that you get too far for an epidural?
No, I got an epidural
Sure.
after 36 hours in the hospital.
And I learned, fuck
And you didn't go
anybody.
into the hospital
I learned
until
fuck
day
anybody,
2.5?
Yeah.
because I was in the hospital for all 3 of my kids, and I know that there's a lot of people, and it's nasty when you read the woman blogs. I don't like.
Oh,
dudes,
they're vicious.
Dudes are like, kiss my
Vicious.
ass, and like women are like, you're a weak mother, and I'm like, whoa, like when does that?
Mom shaming
like,
is
it's crazy.
It's high school
Oh, geez.
times
Except it's like all ages.
it's like
And it just, however you choose. I'm sorry, let me cut you off. But like, yeah, it's something that I had to learn. That they, I forget, it's been a long time. The medication that they give to put you in labor, Pitocin, which made my ex-wife feel crazy. And then, and then she had an allergic reaction to during the cesarean, she had an allergic reaction to the anesthesia, which she didn't know because she'd never been under the anesthesia before.
Exactly.
And so she lost all control of her abdominal anything because of the block, but also she couldn't, she was nauseous and sick, so she couldn't throw up. She had there was no, so she was
in there.
choking on her vomit basically while she was getting cut open. And I'm just like, what the fuck do I do right now? Because I'm in this room with my stupid hat and my little outfit and my sterile outfit, and I'm just, it's scary. It's my first time, and then so I see my daughter gets cut out and I hear her crying, and I'm like, okay, so then I start crying because I hear her crying. She takes her first breath, and I'm looking at Mom. I'm like, you're okay? And they're like, oh, we have to get her out. Dad, you got to go because she's, I'm like.
Dad, get the fuck out.
But that happened.
Get the fuck out now, Dad.
Then that didn't happen again, but it happened, kind of with the second child and so on. So what I'm saying is that there's every time for me at least, there's always something new. And then my third kid was born at 28 and a half weeks with, and spent 80 something days and coded a few times. And so it is Jesus Christ. Don't wish any of that on anybody. So the mom shaming is very upsetting, and I hate it. I understand everyone has different beliefs. Some people want to do water birth, some people want to do it at home, whatever. I don't care what you want to do. Just make sure it's safe, and there's people.
What works for you.
So go ahead.
I mean, whatever works for you. I'm always the type of person, I'm just like, listen, it may not be what I do, but if that's what you want to do, then by all means. It's not affecting my life. As long as you and baby and dad and everybody's healthy, it's your choice. I wanted to do a water birth in the hospital, and my husband was like,
I didn't even know they did that.
no, you're not doing that. I wanted the biggest room in the hospital. I was like, listen, if I'm going to labor for X amount of hours, push a child out of my vagina.
You should be comfy.
I
I'm
want to
never saying
have
what
the bestest.
they can or can't do.
The bestest.
The bestest
It is
room
the bestest.
ever.
Yeah.
Okay, which he actually did. He got me the Grand Slam room afterwards, and
You just have
everything.
to you request it. It's
Yeah,
weird to me. I never
it's
know.
depending on your hospital. We had the luxury room where they literally came in with a white linen table, and they served you not champagne but apple cider, sparkling cider and stuff, because they can't serve you champagne obviously.
Yeah.
For the gram,
shrimp
everything has to be
cocktail,
perfect.
filet with gnocchi. I mean, it was wonderful.
Wow.
But going into
It's like
labor,
every Boca hospital.
Yeah, evidently.
going into hell no, it wasn't.
I'm joking.
Maybe would have had a better experience if it was.
Might not have got in.
Might not have.
Yeah.
But going into labor, I was like, I'm ready. I've got this. We were at Bye Bye Baby. I was having contractions, and I'm like, all right, hold on. And then we're at the cashier, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just having contractions.
There's a commercial with.
And then
Once
we're
the
just
baby
like,
get
all
here,
right, before we're calling my mother-in-law, and he's just like, hey, listen, she's about to come, so we got to go. And she was like, well, where are you? Oh, we're at Bye Bye Baby, but we're going to stop and get Zona Fresca on the way to the hospital because I'm not going to be able to eat. And she was like, why aren't you going to the hospital now? No, my mother-in-law was just like, why aren't you going to the hospital?
No, who said we were going to eat?
Oh, I did. Because I was like, I need to have my last meal.
Right. Your
I don't even know.
Which I didn't end up eating.
What are you on death row?
Because I was throwing up my entire time in labor.
Of
I
course you were.
eat
You
my
needed to
food.
get something in and keep it down.
I
sure.
didn't even eat it.
Oh.
Yeah,
I never
because you knew better.
Because I started throwing up the second we were on the way to zone.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I didn't eat from the 2nd until the 4th. Literally. They're like, oh, here's some ice chips. Here you go, honey. Here's some ice chips.
Yeah. I tell you exactly
Here's
what to
some
do
more
with those
ice
ice chips. You're
I'll
gonna throw
tell
them
you.
at your head.
I'm like, oh, thanks. This is really good to me.
Ice chips are tasty as fuck when you don't eat for.
Yeah.
So I was throwing up nonstop. My contractions were like 5 minutes apart for 2 days. I wasn't dilating past like 4 centimeters. So finally, and I didn't want an epidural because my body reacts weird to synthetic medication.
Was she positioned right?
Oh, she was positioned right from day one.
Okay. Well,
Head down, face down, ready to go.
all right.
And so she was just like, let's do it. But she wasn't coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't allowed to get Pitocin. They refused to give me Pitocin because according to the
Pitocin?
March of Dimes, what induces labor, helps
Oh,
like the
okay.
contractions
Yeah.
and stuff.
Makes you feel crazy, apparently.
Okay.
It
I had it, but
they refused to give it to me. So I labored
Why?
naturally
Why did they refuse?
by myself.
Why did they
Because
refuse?
according to the March of Dimes, and I say this sarcastically
The
because
people who
it's
cured
bullshit
polio?
that an organization has the right to tell you when you can have something to help
Yeah.
you with labor. They said, you're not allowed to have it unless you're 39 weeks and 1 day. So we were a week away from me allowing
Because you were 38 weeks.
which hospital were you at?
Jesus Christ.
Broward. Yeah. I'm not going to
Fuck
say
the
any more
March of
about
Dimes.
that. But
You say whatever you want.
it just, they refused. And the doctor, instead of sending me home, was like, listen, we're going to keep you here because God forbid we send you home and like
Yeah.
you have an expedited labor and you're delivering in the car. We're going to keep you here. And I was like, all right, cool. We're going to have a baby by the end of the weekend. Well, the weekend came and fucking went. And I still was pregnant, still in labor. And they were just like, baby's not in distress. You're not in distress. You're
Stomach
fine.
hurts, just
And my husband.
How exactly did they define that you were not in distress? Because I'm in distress just hearing about it.
yeah, it's very distressful.
Because I have a very.
Insane pain tolerance?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a very high pain tolerance. They wouldn't even give me anything for nausea for the first day I was there. Finally, my mother-in-law chased a nurse down and said, you need to come in here now. She's throwing up.
Mm-hmm.
She has nothing in her stomach. How do you expect her to be able to continue to labor with just giving her ice chips?
Yeah, I don't do well. Like, I'm going to flip this whole hospital upside down.
I'm
if you
sitting here and I'm like throwing up foam at this
Yeah,
point. I
sure.
have nothing in me. I'm
Smile,
like,
yeah.
how is
Yeah.
this happening? So finally we get to Monday, November 4th, and my water still hadn't broken. I was finally 10 centimeters dilated, and the doctor's like, all right, well, we're going to break your water now. So they break my water, and they're like, okay, the nurse will come in and you guys will start. Great.
Sure.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. Nobody came back
Nobody
into the
comes in.
room. My husband's there, my best friend's there, and my mother-in-law's there. And I'm like, I need to push. Nobody to be found.
Yeah.
Not a single person. My husband goes out to the
The nurse button wasn't working, apparently.
no.
Yeah.
Nope. Nothing was working.
But you knew you were 10 centimeters dilated.
Yeah, because the doctor came in and broke my water and said, all right, let's go. And wasn't even my OB. My OB was nowhere to be found. Another OB from the
who's popping
practice.
waters out here?
The
Jesus.
OB.
Oh.
The OB popped it
Okay.
and walked out of the room
Yeah.
and never said anything to
I
us.
thought that's when you start pushing.
That's what we thought. And so then when my husband went out to the...
Usually a nurse and OB.
Right, exactly.
And whoever.
Went out there and was like, Doc, is she supposed to be pushing? And he was like, he was French. He was like, why, of course. 20 minutes ago. And I'm just like, 20 minutes ago? What do you mean 20 minutes ago?
X.
And then they never put my stirrups up for me to push. They literally had me with an epidural holding my damn legs.
I didn't know that this... I didn't fucking know this side of the story. I know the Quinny story, but this is...
What I went through
There's
a reason why I have PTSD
Sure.
and anxiety
Absolutely.
from this experience, from a traumatic
Which
We're right
hospital
next
was
door
this
to your
again?
psychologist.
Broward. Yeah.
Broward General?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Broward
never
General.
going to Broward General.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
My psychologist's office is
They
literally
don't
2
have a
stores.
very good rep.
Clearly.
Sorry.
But we delivered, and the most ironic thing is we delivered at Broward because we had a choice between Holy Cross and Broward, but Holy Cross doesn't have a NICU, and I said, I want to deliver where there is a NICU. God forbid something were to happen. And it was
That's-
like, I
yeah.
knew,
That's reasonable.
especially after seeing what happened with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you went through all of that, we're like, oh God, like, could you imagine if that happened to our baby?
Well, her insurance lapsed on the second baby, and they just like the OB was like, "Yeah, we don't take that insurance." And she's like, "Well, I want you to deliver." She didn't get to talk to her, but she told the office I would like the same OB to deliver
Right.
Theo, and it just lapsed. And then before we even got it situated, because I don't know, it was just insurance takes forever with everything, right?
Yeah.
So by the time she got around to it, she figured, well, I'm about to hit my 3rd trimester. We had already gotten a few visits, and she was okay. Everything was fine. She had the placenta eruption, so that's when shit hit the fan, and we fucking beeline straight to regional and West Side, and they didn't have. I didn't know they didn't have a pediatrics there. So
because not every hospital has a
labor and
NICU.
delivery, not pediatrics, labor and delivery. So I was like, okay, shit. So they're like, well, since you're in here and you're bleeding this much, and the doctor saw it, because the doctor like opened her legs and closed them right back up, and I was like
that's gonna help.
I was like, fuck me,
Right.
And she's in great spirits because she's obviously can feel the baby, and she's way more optimistic. And I said it on the last episode, I was as fucking pale as a ghost because I just was terrified. I was really scared. I had no control. And so they're like, we're gonna make you sign this form, and we're gonna transport you to Plantation General. And all I ever heard in my entire life is that hospital is horrible.
Yeah, I worked for HCA. I would never go to an HCA hospital.
But Plantation General's labor and delivery is like the best in like the whole region. So we got lucky because they are amazing.
Yeah.
And it's the nurses that make the hospital.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The NICU nurses and just the NICU in general was
Yeah.
so good.
It's its own community.
Amazing. Can't give them enough praise. But it worked out. And it was terrifying. And we can keep talking about that. But, so let's transition into the delivery went
we didn't hear the end of the story yet.
So finally, I started pushing, and the nurse
Still
was
with
like,
no one there?
With no one there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was my husband, my mother-in-law, and my best friend. They were holding my legs.
Yeah, that's
and they
about how
and they
that...
were just like, I go, can you see her? Can you see her? They're like, all we see is your butthole getting massive. We're like, we don't know if you're going to have a kid out of that or out of your vagina.
That's funny now, but it's not funny then.
No, because I was just like, what do you mean? How am I pushing? Like,
Right?
I've never delivered a baby before.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to come natural to you. Well, it wasn't coming natural
Sure.
to me,
Yeah.
apparently. And the nurse finally comes in and she's like, oh, you're pushing wrong. And I looked at her in the face and I go, what do you fucking mean I'm pushing wrong? She's like, you need to push like this. I'm like, please, let me get into the position I need to get into. I go, this feels so unnatural, laying back like this. I'm like, let me sit upright. Oh, you can't do that. You have an epidural. I'm like, I feel my legs. Because I'm allergic to Vicodin, morphine, codeine, all the good stuff that you can have in an epidural.
Yeah,
I couldn't
all the good
have.
stuff.
So all it was a numbing agent. So I could still lift my legs.
Sure.
So finally, I pushed and pushed and pushed for 2 hours. Doctor comes in. All right, baby's ready to go. Quinn comes out quick. They put her on my chest. I didn't even get a chance to look at her. And they were just like taking her off my chest. And Andrew cuts the cord. And then all of a sudden, 2 NICU nurses come in. Then 2 doctors. Then 4 more nurses. Then 3 more nurses. And there's sounds going off left and right. And I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they're just like, I don't hear her crying. I'm like, Andrew, Quinn's not crying. And he's like, it's okay. I told my mother-in-law, you get your ass over there and you watch everything they're doing. You make sure that Quinn's okay.
Right.
She's standing there. It takes what feels like forever.
Sure,
But it's
yeah.
probably like 20, 30 seconds. They finally get Quinn to cry. They suction her out. She pinks up because she wasn't moving. She was blue. They were like, they checked her blood sugar. They said her blood sugar was super low. Hello.
Probably,
I hadn't
'cause she
eaten
hadn't
in
eaten in
fucking
5
4
days.
days,
Yeah.
you know? So then the NICU nurse, they get her. They bring her to me. And they let me kiss her. Like, they bring her in the little swaddle to me.
Yeah.
I can't even hold her. And they're like, Mom, we need to go to the NICU now. Once you're all healed up and everything, in 2 hours, you can come down once we've run all our results. But we got to bring her in. She's a little tachypnic. She's breathing a little fast. And her sugar. So, like, her heart rate was, like, going up and then going down. It was, like, all over the place. So they were just like, we're going to bring her down. We're going to give her a little oxygen, a little bit of support, a little bit of sugar, and you can come visit her. And I was like, okay. So the doctor's like suturing me up. And then we thought that was that. We go down to the NICU. We still couldn't hold her or anything. They're like, listen, we got to let her rest. And so we were there for the 2 days, that's mandatory to stay.
Yeah.
I go home
When
crying.
you push out a kid versus getting...
When you have a C-section, it's usually 3 days. But with COVID, like they're sending people home within 24
Sure.
hours because they don't want you in
They
the
don't want you
hospital.
there.
Yeah, I had a couple of friends deliver, and they're like, "Yeah, we went home like 18 hours later." I was like, "Oh, hell no!"
Yikes!
Because what happened was, I got sent home after the 2 days, devastated because I'm going home without my baby.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, "Listen, she's gonna come home this weekend. She's doing good, you know."
Yeah, he was doing the right thing.
He was
staying
just like,
optimistic.
Look, it's going to give us 2 nights to like get her nursery ready, to really get her car seat installed. You get to like recover, have 2 good nights of sleep.
Yeah.
You know, like we're trying to be
Those are all-
optimistic and
all good
positive.
things to think about.
And then I'm at home by myself, and this is 3 days after giving birth, and all of a sudden I feel a massive headache. It feels like somebody literally took a bat to the back of my head. And I start throwing up. I almost black out. I fall to the floor.
Yikes!
And I can hear my heart in my ears. I can
Okay.
feel every pulse that's happening. I call my husband and I'm just like, I feel like I'm having a heart attack. Like I thought I was going to die. I had never felt anything like this. And instead of calling an ambulance, because I don't overreact to things, I'm
Right.
like, I'm not like, maybe I'm just like having a panic attack or something, which I've had them before, but I was like, this feels weird. I've never given birth before. I don't know what recovery's like. I was up and walking literally an hour after giving birth, and everyone's like, did you just have a baby? Like nobody gets up, they get wheeled.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't need a wheelchair. Get that thing away from me. So I get rushed to the ER by my husband, and I'm sitting there for 3 hours, same hospital. And the OB finally, because I called the OB, I was just like, I feel like I'm dying. They kept like sitting me back. I kept throwing up. I'm like, I need something. I'm like, my heart rate, my blood pressure was 190 over 130.
That's too many.
Just giving me anxiety.
It was bad. They checked my heart. They were saying, Mom, you could be throwing clots. You may have a stroke. We're putting you on heart attack watch. You need to go back upstairs to labor and delivery and be put on a potassium drip, the magnesium sulfate drip, because you have preeclampsia. I'm sorry, what? I have preeclampsia after giving birth?
Yeah.
That's very rare. It usually happens when you're pregnant, and then once you deliver the baby, it disappears.
Right.
Not me. Mine came full force 3-4 days later. So I get readmitted in labor and delivery for that. I lost 12 pounds overnight of 16 hours of being on a drip because I had so much retention that happened. And before I got discharged, originally I told the doctor, my chest hurts, like I can't breathe. And they were like, oh, here's some Robitussin because you probably have a cold from the AC unit in here and you had a very stressful labor and delivery. So they sent me home with Robitussin.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to me when I said my chest hurts.
I'm not like pro, like just throwing the hardcore drugs at somebody.
Well,
but
not like she'd be able to take
I'm
any
also not
hardcore
like
drugs
throw
anyways.
them Robitussin like it's.
Yeah, here's some Robitussin
Here's some
and
cough
some
medicine.
400 milligram ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen.
I mean, they have codeine in Robitussin, right?
The not the
Not
kind
the
they
one
gave
that
her.
No.
Damn.
That's why I said not.
because I
not
can't
the
have
good one.
codeine.
The purple drink.
I can't have it. I'm allergic.
They,
Oh,
they
shit.
gave
I'm
her
allergic
the,
to all the good
I'm a
stuff.
terrible listener.
They gave her the
Yeah.
over-the-counter one. It's
Yeah,
like,
that sucks.
dextromethorphan. or
So
something.
that didn't do anything.
Oh.
And so when I'm sitting there back in labor and delivery, I was like, all right, at least I'm under the same roof as Quinn again. You know, like we're sleeping in
Yeah.
I can just walk downstairs and see her. Then I'm not even there, you know, the 2 nights, and the doctors from the NICU come up, both doctors, the head director and the other doctor come up, and they're like, Mom, we have consent forms for you. And I was like, for what? I'm thinking like for discharge. They're like, your daughter took a turn. And she is severely sick. She has necrotizing enterocolitis, which is called NEC, which meant that her small intestine, her large intestine, her bowel, everything was dying. It was necrotizing, which led to a full body E. coli infection, which led to sepsis.
Sure.
So they were just like, we need you to sign consent forms for blood transfusions, for the IV antibiotics, for an emergency surgery. Quinn wasn't even stable enough to be moved to the OR. And the surgeon came up to me and were like, I didn't even have to go to the NICU. All these specialists were coming to visit me upstairs in the mama baby, unit. And they were just like, listen, we're monitoring her. We don't want to jump into surgery because she's not stable enough.
Sure.
And I was like, how did this even happen? Like, what do you mean she has E. coli? And my husband and I
have preeclampsia
like,
too. So it's
exactly. I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh boy.
So my husband was just like, when we were in the NICU and we saw her left eye was pink and it was puffy, and they were just like, oh no, that's normal. They have fluid retention and shifts, like when they get positioned, like things shift to one side. And I'm like, but that looks weird. And we had mentioned something, and they were just like, it's fine, Mom, don't worry. Like, we're taking good care of her. Well, they did a swab, and she had E. coli in her eye. So we're like, how did our kid in a sterile environment get E. coli in their eye? And we weren't even allowed to touch her at that point.
Sure.
Yeah.
And she got an infection. And then...
That's negligence.
Exactly.
That's exactly what that is.
But unfortunately, from a public hospital, we can't do anything about it. And that's, I think...
Like lawsuit-wise?
Yeah.
Really? Is that a thing?
That's what we've
We're in a law office right now.
I know.
We'll figure
we
that
should
out.
We should ask
We
him
should ask
because
him.
I'm serious.
Yeah, but he's a medically lawyer.
It's all
because
documented.
let me tell you, when you're
that doesn't
living,
sound right.
When you're living in that moment, the only thing.
Do they need like for her like something even worse to happen? I don't understand.
we had a friend that their daughter passed away from the same doctor. It's like a week later, and they spoke to attorneys, and the attorney said that it's not worth their time and the money to sue a public hospital because the public, we pay for it with our taxes.
Yeah, but
so if we sue the hospital,
it's a municipality lawsuit, I believe.
But the issue is all the doctors, they have all of their malpractice insurance, everything's grouped. And the way that they have the wording is so specific that it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
That's how they cover their asses, you know?
Yeah, that's, and when you sign all those forms.
And you sign everything, exactly, which I've learned now, I don't sign shit. When I go anywhere into a hospital now, you don't have to sign in order to get seen to have service. You don't.
No,
so
you're right.
That's a whole other monster that we don't even have to tackle. But 9 days into her being born, they couldn't even move her to the OR. They had to do an emergency bedside surgery. They made her room. They had to move the other kid out of the room
to make that into the surgery place.
OR.
Jesus.
They went in for the first surgery. There was 2 surgeons to be on her, and we were waiting outside. We were sitting at like the Starbucks down there, like just praying and everything. And then they told us the surgery can either go really well or really bad. We expect the surgery to probably be between an hour to 2 hours. If it's anything less than an hour, it means it's not good news. 25 minutes later, we get a call, and we're like, that's not good news.
Yeah, no.
So they call us, and we walk into the NICU, and we just see all these faces that are just so somber, and nobody's talking to us, and everybody has their heads down. And they just said, Mom, Dad, please come to the conference room. And we're like, what? We thought that they were going to tell us our daughter died.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, like, they don't even say she survived. Like, nothing. They're just like, come into the conference room.
I feel like that's supposed to be the first words you say.
Right? Like, your daughter survived surgery. Like, let the parent know.
Yeah.
So we walk into a conference room pretty similar to where we are. The nurse manager walks in, the director walks in, the 2 surgeons walk in, the NICU nurse, the respiratory therapist. There was like 10 people in the room. And the surgeons pretty much told us when we opened her up, it looked like nothing was alive. Her kidney was dead. Her kidneys were dead. Her liver was dead. Her small intestine, her large intestine. Her stomach looked okay. Her heart looked, fine. Like they kind of saw it, but they didn't. But they just said her entire bowel was dead. They're like, so her chances of survival are probably less than 1%. And we're like, taking that in, like you just delivered, your child. Like you're thinking you're going to start a whole life to being told your daughter has a less than 1% chance of living. Sure. So they said, we're going to do what we can. We've left her open for the weekend. We're going to leave her open for 48 hours. Yeah. They put like an iodide patch over her with a vacuum to keep everything sealed. They're like, we're going to allow it to expand to see if we can get some oxygen in there to get everything to pink up, puff up, allow it to get some blood flow. So we're going to go back in on Monday and we're going to see. So we're like, okay. And nobody was allowed in the NICU except for mom and dad, or mom with one person, dad with one person. They let our entire family in. And when they let everybody in, that it's not looking good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, come say goodbye to your child. So all weekend we're just, Devastated, praying, like crying over her crib.
Yeah.
It was hard, So Monday comes and they're just like, we're gonna get it, praying all weekend. I mean, I was saying I'll die for her, take my liver, take this, you want to give everything to your kid.
Sure.
And there's nothing you can do. You're literally waiting for the surgeons to just tell you, like, she made it through. She's going to be okay.
It's the worst part.
It's the worst. Like, especially as a parent, like, you have no control over anything. As a human, we have no control over anything.
Yeah.
Like, we can sit here and say, you control this, you control that, but you can walk out of here and get hit by a bus, you know?
Can.
Like,
anything can
get
happen.
struck by lightning, get hit with a coconut, okay? Like, it happens. So, they did the second surgery, and they were just like, some stuff did pink up. There was about 6 centimeters of small intestine, and mind you, we have about 120 centimeters. So they were able to salvage 6 centimeters, 3 different segments. And they left one little segment, and then they stitched it together to hopefully keep that alive. And then they created what they called an ileostomy. So it was a stoma that was pretty much the intestine that went to the side of her area. It was pretty much her butthole, her new butthole for a while, to allow everything else to heal. And they resected everything else. And the surgeon was like, we took what we needed to, but a lot of it was dead. But luckily, her entire large intestine pinked back up. Her stomach was fine. You know, her anus was fine. Everything else was okay. But the small intestine is such an important organ. It's what actually absorbs all your nutrients. It's what allows you to survive. I mean, but the thing is, the intestine is such a dirty organ that all that bacteria, like, you just never know what's going to happen. So they're just like, this is the best chance we have, is to give her an ileostomy. So they did that, and she had that for several months until she had her 3rd surgery.
It's like this, like a sterile. It's kind of to make it so that it doesn't get infected and stuff.
To allow the rest of her bowel, her large bowel and everything, to just not have to be used. So everything, she had her little bag, and she would just pretty much poop into that bag. But it took about 2 weeks for anything to even come out of it. And we were just like, the entire time, like, the band that I have here, it's our pink band that my husband made for us. And it says, our little superhero, Mighty Quinny. Because we were praying for pink, because we wanted pink intestines. We needed it to pink up. So we created these, and we gave them out to all of our friends and family, you know, during that time. And her intestine did pink up. So she was left with that. She was intubated. She was on a paralytic. She was on morphine. I mean, she had about 13 different drips at that time, and all the lights and sounds. And we couldn't hold Quinn for, what was it, like 29, 30 days.
Yikes.
So I got to hold her for the first time 2 days after giving birth. And then I couldn't hold her again for at least another month. And when we did, it was like, I had the ventilator, you had the lines, she had the other line, like, you had to be careful not to pull this. Mom, you can't hold her for too long. You can't hold her in that position. Being told that you can't hold your child, you can't do that.
It's a natural.
You can't
for a mother.
do this. I couldn't breastfeed her. That was the one thing I wanted to do, was to breastfeed her, and I couldn't do that. She couldn't get anything orally. She had no food. I was like, how is she surviving? Oh, she's getting TPN, which is total parental nutrition, and that goes directly into her IV. So it bypasses her bowels, so it gets absorbed directly into her bloodstream.
They do that a lot for
a lot of things, for a lot of
things,
people, for cancer patients, for people with bowel cancer. So Quinn started doing well, and this was around the holidays. You know, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, maybe she'll be home for like Thanksgiving or Christmas, and she was doing better and better. And then it wasn't until 2 days from Christmas Eve that her heart rate started going high and her respiratory rate started going high. And we're just like, what's going on? And we remember our nurse, who was amazing. Like, her primary nurse is the reason why we are so educated today, and why Quinn is succeeded, because that nurse, I talk to her all the time. Like, I've become so close to her. And she was just like, she had told us.
They're a godsend. They really are.
Absolutely.
They were born to do what
they're amazing. They're amazing. NICU nurses are just a completely different breed.
It's a different world.
Nurses.
It's a different world. Like, even pediatrics, like, but NICU, it's a special person.
It takes a whole different kind of person.
Even like the NICU nurses that I saw on rotation when I would go visit, like, even if they weren't like my favorite, they were still fucking really good with the babies. Yeah. And they talked to the babies, they sang to them. It was so like, I never felt more secure than when I was in that room, as terrifying as all the bangs and bongs are.
You knew that they were taken care of, that they were watched 24/7. The only reason why I was able to go home, I was able to go home and sleep at night because that was our one rule: is we did not sleep at the hospital. We went home together to sleep because we're like, she's being watched over by the best parents, her surrogate parents while she's here. And her nurse had told us, usually UTIs present in a way that wouldn't be normal, like for us, like, because babies can't tell you. So she's watch out. She educated us. So when we saw that, we had told the doctor, I think you should test her for a UTI.
Is this still Broward, Jenna?
Yes, this is still Broward.
Shit. God damn it.
Yeah. And
if you're listening,
I would not recommend
maybe pick a different one.
Yeah,
look over your options. That's all we're saying.
Maybe pick a private hospital.
Yeah.
But so finally the doctor's like, to appease you, we will do a UTI.
Jesus.
Urinalysis,
Was that
a culture.
Or hers exact words?
Yes, it was. And it's unfortunate because like we genuinely loved the doctors. We loved the intensivists, but it was like sometimes we didn't feel like we were being heard.
Yeah.
So they finally went to go do a culture. When they went to go put the catheter in, pus came out of her urethra. Pus. Okay? Not okay.
Yeah,
at
obviously.
all. And she was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I'm like, what is that? That's an infection. So then like, you know what? Let's do an echocardiogram to see, because her heart rate had been high for a while. Let's see what happened with her heart. They get it in. The cardiac doctor comes in. She tells me, Mom, your daughter's in heart failure. What? What do you mean my daughter's in heart failure? We don't have a heart unit here. We don't do peds heart.
Yeah.
So we need to transfer you to Joe DiMaggio. I'm like, okay.
Literally, that's probably a good thing, frankly.
And you know, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's ironic, I should say, that we had a meeting with the intensivists, with the doctor saying, if you guys don't get your shit together, we're going to transfer to Joe DiMaggio. We had that conversation, and they said, you have every right to transfer to whatever hospital you want. However, you'd have to pay for all the transfer fees, which is like $10,000. And we're just like, we'll pay whatever we have to, but we didn't. We wanted
chop a leg off. I don't just.
We wanted so bad to believe these doctors, believe like that she was in this care. We wanted to.
Right.
And so when this happened, we're like, that was God's way of telling us, well, your decision's made for you. You're going to Jody.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to pay for the transfer because when it's a medical transfer, they take care of the fees.
Right.
So we got transferred to Joe DiMaggio. When we first got there, literally, I kid you not, 42 doctors met us.
That's a lot of doctors.
This is Christmas Eve now.
They're just hanging out.
Right?
Christmas Eve. They're 42. Lined up outside of Quinn's room, and it's just one specialist after another coming in with their residents, their attendings, boom, boom, boom. And it's like my husband and I are sitting there just like, holy shit. Like, not only being transferred to a new hospital, but now having to deal with heart failure, having to deal with all these new specialists that they're like, oh, now she's failing in this, now she's failing in that. I'm like, what do you mean?
Wow.
Nothing that we ever heard before from Broward. And now Jody's telling us like our daughter's way worse than we thought she was.
Yeah.
And they're like, another doctor, which we have no idea who the hell he was. We never saw him again. But he literally told us, your daughter is drowning in quicksand and she's drowning fast. We don't know if we're going to be able to save her. And unfortunately, she doesn't qualify for a transplant for either her bowel or her heart because she's a short bowel kid now. And she's also in heart failure. So the heart wouldn't go to her because she's not a healthy kid. Yeah. Another kid could use that heart. And I was just like, so you're giving up on our kid pretty much. And he was like, we're going to do what we can. And we're like, you don't know our daughter. Our daughter has fought and fought and fought. I was like, she's a little Scorpio. She is her mommy and daddy. She is stubborn. She is a Halliday. I'm like, we're fighters. I was like, don't count her out. And they were just like, we're going to do everything we can. And we kept telling them, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And once we got to Jody, we started calling the shots because we knew what our rights were as parents. And we knew our child. We knew how she was. We knew that move that she made, that little shudder or that little cry, like that meant something was wrong. I'm like, you don't know our kid.
This is why I am so happy that you're telling this story, because I know that there are people that just, they don't know.
And they're afraid to speak up.
Or they're afraid.
And you want to trust who you're in.
It's intimidating when a medical professional just
they walk in with their white coat and their stethoscope and they're just like, hi, I'm Dr.
Half of it is their job, that they're dealing with people that are always in the same boat, you know, and it's hard. It's hard on every aspect. Nobody likes to deliver the bad news. Nobody likes to, you know, receive it. It's one of those things where I feel talking about it at least gives people some perspective, because I know for sure the waiting in any aspect, no matter if it's I'm not here to this whole episode is not about comparing whose story is worse or it's about admitting and being honest and vulnerable and saying this shit is scary and it's hard as fuck to I don't however many months everybody, you know, thankfully I have a lot of friends checking on me and they're like, you know, hey, how's Theo? And I'm like, dude, I don't know.
I know.
I don't know
what the doctors
I don't
tell
fucking
me.
know. Like I'll sit down, I'll go and I'll get a drink at the bar or something, and they're like, "Hey, bud," and they'll come and put their arm around me, and it's really sweet.
Times.
It's all sweet, you know. But
pre-COVID,
I got tired of saying I don't know, so I just stopped talking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
and my story is terrifying, but it's not even. You're not even done. It's not even.
I know.
It's not even. You know, close to that, and I'm sorry, but I want people to be thankful and appreciative of the opportunity that, you know, you can hear and see someone else going through something that's very real, very you know, difficult. It's not something anyone wants. It's not something anybody thinks that, you know, can't happen. But it is something that can happen. It is something that did happen, and
it can happen even when you do everything right.
This is management.
Exactly.
This is
unexpected.
You know,
every test came back perfect, beautiful. Everyone's like, Yvette, stop panicking. Don't worry.
Right.
But I'm always the kind of person that I prepare for the worst. And it's weird because when I was a little girl, I always said to myself, I had a fear that I could either not get pregnant or that something was going to be wrong with my kid. I always had that fear. And my aunt, my uncle were like, Yvette, you're crazy. Like, stop thinking that way. You're putting it into the universe. But I always had that fear.
I was always told, don't put things into the universe.
I know, but I always had that.
The universe is pretty fucked up.
Yeah,
you know?
It is.
So it doesn't matter.
But
it doesn't matter if you believe in good energy or not.
Bad things happen to good people.
Sure.
Bad things happen to everyone.
Yeah. We wish bad things happen to bad people more, but it's the term, you know, the good die young, and, you know, it shit
Fuck
happens.
Billy Joel.
I can't even tell you how many times we sat there in the car, like, just literally silent on the way home from the NICU or the hospital. We're just like, why the fuck did this happen to us?
Eating to stay alive,
and then
not
you start
talking.
thinking to yourself, is it because I did something when I was 20 to that person? Like, is it like karma that's getting me or something? That's
remember I was doing that for like when he coded the first time. I was talking to Bo, I think, and I was like, yeah, this is because I did some pretty fucked up shit in my life, you know. Not like murder anyone or crazy, but like I did some pretty shady shit in my life, and I'm not proud of it.
Everybody has something to hide.
I bet you this. I was like, I bet you this is karma, and I was like, I'm an asshole, and this is probably why. And then he was like, shut that shit up. He's like, you better stop talking like that. He said, hell no, that's not. Fuck that shit. Get that. Hell no. Your boy gonna be all right. And I'm just like sitting there, like, he's saying it, and I'm just like,
you don't believe it.
Well, if it was true, you know, so, but that's why I wanted you on the show. But
then with that too, I sat there and I told myself, why would God punish an innocent child? Sure. He wouldn't do that to an innocent baby, you know, like, punish me.
I'm a raging atheist,
you know,
so yeah.
But I'm just saying, that's why I said the universe, whatever
it
is, you know, whatever the hell you believe in, if you believe in the tree is doing it to you, okay? Like, I feel like you have to believe in something more. Like, I was always a bad Catholic, okay? I only went to church for free donuts and coffee before all of this happened.
Hey, man, the fellowship's an important part.
You know, but, like, when this happened...
I just thought, like, Boondock Saints. I don't know why. It was like,
no, man, they were good Catholics.
Well, they were.
But it was like, when this happened, like, I turned to my faith, and that's what really carried me through. And because what else did I have at that point?
You find whatever you need to find.
Like, I had nothing else to lose. I was like, you know what? Do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, do your thing. So back to the whole Jody thing.
Right.
So she started kicking ass, and she started showing them what she was made of, and they're just like, my God, this kid is a miracle. Everything those doctors said, they would come in the room the next time, so the results are better, or so that wasn't like that last time. Wow, she's looking great, or wow, like, this has never happened before. She's literally 1 in like 2 million or whatever the statistics were. And I was just like, that's right. You don't count our kid out. And so finally in February, I think it was February 7th, she got her 3rd and final surgery where they did the reostomosis, where they reconnected her. So they got rid of the ileostomy, reconnected it. Unfortunately, all the damage from her original surgery with how sick she was, the surgeon told us that like there was literally calcified fecal matter, like just adhered everywhere in there. Yeah. So they ended up taking out her ileocecal valve, which is actually a really important valve that connects the 2 intestines, so there's no backflow of bacteria. Okay. She lost that. So she actually lost more in the 3rd surgery. Wow. But her intestine did grow about 2 centimeters. So it did grow a little bit, you know. Yeah. So she reconnected it all. She removed her appendix because her appendix was like all tangled up under her rib.
You don't fucking need it anyway.
You don't. Well, there's actually a reason, a whole thing for it apparently, but we're just like, just get rid of that shit, because if that ruptures and it's in her rib, we won't know. Right. Like, get rid of it. I don't want it. So they got rid of that.
Hey kid, we did you a favor.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You don't have to worry about that. She got her Broviac central line, so it's like the line, it's tunneled here, like in the center of her chest. Okay. And a portion of it's just underneath her skin, and then it actually is inserted into her jugular, her main jugular vein, and it goes right over her heart.
Direct feed.
Okay. Direct feed over her heart. So that's there, and then they gave her a G tube. Now the G tube is literally just for medicines, feeds, and all of that. But I have never used her G tube because I had said that is a crutch. She is going to eat by mouth. She's going to take all her meds by mouth because she doesn't need that G tube. I don't know why you gave that to my kid. She doesn't need it. You guys
are stubborn.
Yeah. And her GI doctor was like, listen, in case of emergencies,
do it on,
we're going to put it in because God forbid she starts throwing up, she gets sick, you know, she can't have any of her meds. We want her to have that. It's better to have access than not in an emergency. If you want to sleep. Yeah. So we let them put it in. I haven't had to use it. Knock on wood. Yep. But after that, they were just like, you're probably going to be here for another 6 months. We'll be lucky to come home by the summer. Not even a week and a half later, all of a sudden they're like, oh, your daughter's so much better. Her heart is like in the 40% now. You guys can go home. I'm sorry, what? Like, we just prepared to be here for another 6 months. 6 months? And now you're telling me we can go home. I mean, it was like, holy shit.
And this is in February?
February.
So just before COVID?
Just before COVID.
Yeah.
So
that's probably a good time.
It's probably another reason why they pushed us out, because COVID was already happening in December.
Yeah, they just weren't. They
weren't like, you know, letting people know.
Yeah.
So February 24th was the day that Quinn came home.
Yeah.
And it was the best day of our life.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of funny because
so far
she was actually conceived on February 24th.
Nice.
The year before.
Nice.
I was like, holy crap, like full circle here. Right? And she came home, and it has not been easy. We ended up in the hospital a month later with a central line infection because we had a home health nurse for the first month. I kicked her out because she wasn't cleaning the line properly. She was the reason why we ended up in the hospital. Okay. Her doctor was just like, that's probably the best thing you could have done. Yeah. Because you caring for your child, you know exactly what to do. You're making sure everything's done right. You
want to just be her home.
I'm her home health nurse. Okay. Absolutely. I am her home health nurse, her mother, her doctor, her therapist. Like, I do everything for her. It's fucking
exhausting, and that's kind of what I was saying in the beginning. And I have no idea. A lot of people do not. I complain about my easy, just fucking kid, just being a kid. Seriously. Yeah. And I and we were talking a little bit before we started. I tried like the best that I could possibly attempt to think I should give effort. Like, when you don't know, when you're like a new parent, you don't know shit. Then you have a kid, then you're like, okay,
I really don't know shit.
And then you're like, well, I really don't know shit. But then you get into a routine, and when you have a second kid, you're kind of like, all right. And that second kid always gets like the passy that falls on the floor. You ain't sterilizing that shit.
Like,
that
I'm just gonna wipe it off.
Like, boom, fuck you, kid, boom. You know, not really, but you know, it's kind of like
You're
that.
less like scared.
There's so much that goes into these, you know, labor and delivery stories. It's worth talking about it. It's because people, they sometimes need to hear it. They need to be reminded. And, you know, there's going to be a mom that listens to this that is going to be in full-blown tears because she gets you.
And hopefully there will be a mom who listens to this that doesn't go to Broward
Fucking general.
Please don't. Please
You know,
don't.
you-
Unless
you
like
let-
you
let-
literally are bleeding out and you need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Go to a
well,
different
close.
You know,
Yeah.
you want to do what you can to
but
take
like,
measures to make better choices, but
how old is Quinn now?
So she's 11 and a half months. She's celebrating her first birthday on November 4th.
Nice.
So she's going to be 1.
Nice.
I saw the post.
And she's made so many strides since then. I mean, when she first came home, she was on pumps 24/7. She had 3 pumps actually. Now she's on 2 pumps.
Okay.
She's on 1 at night, and that's her lipids. So that's like her fishy oils and fats and stuff. And then she's on TPN for her nutrition for 16 hours. So she goes on at 8:30 at night, and she comes off at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So then from 12:30 to 8:30 at night, she's a typical baby. I just tie it up, and I make sure it's
how's her
heparinized.
like motor functions and stuff?
So she has developmental delay because of being flat on her back for 4 months.
Of course.
Just
That was a given. But also what we found out when we were at Jody, another thing was they had an ophthalmologist come in because they were just like, your daughter's not really tracking, things in light. And I'm like, what do you mean? Remember, she was also like in a coma for 2.5 months, eyes closed, sedated on morphine. So her eyes are going everywhere. So we didn't know anything. And we always thought she was looking at us.
she's a fighter. She's gonna get all that shit back in time, though.
The ophthalmologist was just like, listen, we want to do a brain scan, MRI, MRV, MRA, every MR, whatever.
To see if there's any
see what's going
damage
on.
or anything up there.
Her brain was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Cool.
There was no damage. However, she did have a lot of clotting. She had a huge clot in the venous portion.
Yeah.
So of
That happened
the
to my friend's
flow
kid.
going away from the brain, not to the brain, but away from the vein, the brain.
Yeah.
So they were just like, she's getting all the blood flow, but it's not necessarily leaving as it should, but she had collaterals that had formed. So the collaterals are pretty much like if you're on 95, you're like, oh, you need to take a detour to commercial or whatever and then get back on. So that's what a collateral is. So they're just smaller veins that allow, or arteries that allow the blood to flow.
Going to the same place, though.
Going to the same place.
They're just taking a little longer
It
to
just
get
takes
there.
a little longer, but she had big developed ones. So obviously that happened when she was in utero, which also caused her pituitary gland to develop abnormally. So the pituitary gland, as you know,
I feel like I went to med
as some
school,
people
so-
know,
I probably don't know.
it controls your
to med
whole
school with
endocrine
Yvette.
system. So all your hormones.
Okay.
Right? So her hormones in her body are not going to be as they should because her pituitary gland is abnormal. So like the stalk that actually connects to the brain, it looks like it's hypoplastic, like it's almost non-existent. And then the back portion of it is much higher up than it should be. So her pituitary gland didn't develop normally in utero, and that caused her eyesight, her optic nerves in her eyes, to be much smaller than they should be.
Sure.
So the optic nerve pretty much is like if you have a TV and you have your cable box, the cord that goes from the cable box to the TV is so small that we don't know what the signal could be good, it could be bad, we don't know. We won't know what Quinn's vision is until she can tell us.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's going to be a couple of years. Like they can put probes on and everything and she can look at stuff.
And then there's things, if she does have a deficiency in some area, there's all
She's going to kick its ass. It doesn't matter.
And we're in 2020 medicine. I mean,
it's the best it's been.
I mean,
so it's gonna.
She wouldn't be alive at all if we weren't in the modern day.
I heard that in an NICU.
Like she would not have been saved. So, the vision and the hormone things, we were always going to have a special needs child.
Right.
She was always going to have that.
Right.
But this whole shortcut thing with the lines and the pumps, that's what happened because of the hospital. But the vision, that's something you can deal with. Me as a recreational therapist, I worked with children with disabilities. I worked for the school board.
Right.
I was going to become an ESC teacher because I'm so passionate about it. So it was like
She's a fighter.
She is.
That's way too.
I was prepared for this like, I wish I wasn't, but knowing,
Right.
having the education, having the background that I have, I knew about all of this stuff. So when the doctors were telling me all of this, that's the problem, though, is that I knew too much. And of course, me getting on Dr. Google over here at 3 o'clock in the morning, can't sleep, or the Baby Center app, and asking, does your kid fart like this? And blah, blah, blah. Like, is this normal? Like, you ask all these questions, and everything is like, you have cancer. You're dying. You know? So, like, if I can give any advice, stay off Google. Like, seriously.
Yeah, try your best to stay off the fucking phone.
Stay off Google. And don't go to Broward General.
But
just talk to someone that is encouraging.
So yeah, her first birthday is coming up, and she's off her pump.
I can't wait to give her a giant hug. Because she is and it's been difficult. Such a a fighter and a very uplifting.
She's a special little person.
She's
a miracle. I say it all the time. She's my miracle.
I look at my son Theo, and it's part he's my last kid. He's the youngest. He's went through the NICU, so there's always that soft spot for him. It's a very weird thing because if you had other kids, Quinn would be priority, right? And Quinn would be not your favorite, but everything goes into Quinn.
It's a special. It's a different.
So it's hard. It's hard for me. I love all my children equally, and I think people who have multiple kids can attest to this. But I look at Theo sometimes, and he's just bullshitting. He pulls on his wiener all day, and I'm like, dude, stretching out, it's not gonna work. And then,
he is your son.
He is my kid, and so I'm just like, man, I look at him and I tear up sometimes because I remember like nowhere near as extensive as your story with Quinn and her fight, but it was scary. And when you love your child like that, and this is the beauty, right? I want listeners and viewers to see I'm a guy and I can still feel, I could still feel.
Men have feelings too.
I could still feel broken and feel small and feel. Right. And I remember, and like my girlfriend, she's like way more just so chill than I am. Like she's just so like everything's gonna work out, and she can crack jokes at the worst times, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like that's not the and I'm like, and she's just like, he's gonna be fine, and he's a fighter. He's a fighter, and but anyway, we're short on time. We're gonna wrap up soon. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for opening up and doing this. Seriously, this is exactly what I envisioned, and I am so happy that you were able. This is a fucking high bar to.
Right?
All right, we're just gonna end the MoM series with
whoever comes on
because
it's a different.
No,
kind
I'm kidding.
Of bar.
I'm kidding. I'm being an asshole. But no, it is. It's exactly what should always. You guys like moms, man. Every day, I try. I'm nowhere near as good as I can be as a partner, as a boyfriend, as a dad. I try to be good. I don't give myself enough credit, and I've had friends tell me that, but I think it's because of how much I care, and it's how much I want to be a good dad. Sometimes I worry too much, and it gets in the way of me actually being a good dad. But and then part of it is, like I said, you don't know what you don't know, so you learn as you fail.
Yep.
And then you're like, shit, I got to be better at this. And I'm trying, and I think the point is you don't give up, and you always look to be better. So thank you so much for being on. This is been low-key my favorite episode. We've only had 10, but this has been my favorite episode. So
well, I appreciate
this
being
is
able
great.
To
and I really hope people connect with this and really feel all the real fucking feelings. There's a lot of feelings. My stomach flipped a few times. I was like, do I got to poop? I don't know. I also feel scared. I felt like when you were talking about your am I having a heart attack because you had preeclampsia? I literally have gone through something similar, and I was like, oh shit, I'm going to fall out of the seat on camera. And then, so it's all real things. It's healthy to be present in your state of mind, in your heart, in your feelings, and to converse and talk with people, and just really be thankful for each day that we have, because anything can happen. And I want to go home and hug my kids. They're probably in bed, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't wake them up.
I'm gonna go home and stare at Quinn. Like I can't even tell you. There's nights that I just look at her and I cry.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so thankful
yeah. So
that she's here and alive and she's happy.
You have any questions? I think, yeah.
No, not really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been great. When we get really famous, we're gonna have you back.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna hopefully.
I'd be happy
Quinn,
to be back.
We're gonna hopefully have Quinn on set, and
Yeah.
She can tell you her story going go 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 go.
Yeah.
well, we love you guys, moms. Thank you. You guys are special. You guys are literally the glue that holds everything fucking together. Everything. And I mean it. I'll fight anybody. I'll fight any dad about it. It's true. Like, I don't give a shit how much you think you do, dads.
I mean, they're literally the life makers in society.
You don't do nowhere near as much.
Without them,
and then the
there's
babies
nothing.
are just always attached to the mom. So it's like, it doesn't matter, okay? You can,
Yeah,
whatever.
fuck you. You're
second
chopped
film.
liver.
I'm
They want
chopped
mom.
liver. I'm like gold when mom walks
They
out
want
the door.
mom. Well, yeah,
But
right. When mom's not available,
Until
you'll do.
then, I'll take a back seat. It's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And we
Shoot 'em
appreciate as mothers, we appreciate when fathers, male figures like step up.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so needed. And I think a lot of mothers are overlooked a lot of times, like stay at home moms. Let me tell you, I was the first person to have respect, but I didn't understand just how hard it was to be home, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
With your child 24/7 and you can't even take a shower for 4 or 5 days at a time. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, pandemic or not, you would still be with Quinn
I would still
based
be
on
with
her
her
story, but it's even more difficult because you can't bounce and do anything. Like you can't even
just
check out
sit
to
there
check back
and
in.
just be like, hey, call a friend up and hey,
Correct.
would you mind
Right.
coming over and like watching her
Right.
while I take a shower? Let's go get coffee or doing
Right.
something that's
Nope.
normal
Right.
during this time.
Thanks,
you know?
2020.
So, like, I appreciate, I think I can say for all mothers, when fathers like you step up, you know, men like you want to know about what it's like,
Yeah.
you know, from our end and being appreciated and respected.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that mothers need to hear. We need to hear. We need validation. We
And-
do.
and
We
I
need to be
wanna
told,
say this.
thank you for being an amazing mother. Thank you for being, you know, the best wife or girlfriend. Like,
Yeah.
you can do everything. Everybody has their different languages of love, but
Sure.
I can't even tell you how much just words of affirmation
Yep.
mean
Yeah.
to a mother.
Yeah.
Just say you're
saying
doing
thanks.
You're
like
doing
you,
an
like
awesome
you're
job.
really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I've learned to be better with that. I also learned since the pandemic, and I started working from home before COVID, like in November. But I remember thinking like, I go to work, you know, I don't have to get up in the morning with the kids. Like, guys, fucking wrong answer. Don't do that. Offer a day.
Yeah.
Offer a day. I'm trying to do that with my kids. Even if I'm just up and on the couch while they're watching Puppy Dog Pals, just
Right.
you know, and mom can get an hour more of sleep.
Yes.
God, they deserve that. They need it. Massage their feet, whatever the fuck they want, just do it. Like, it's not
Right.
that difficult. Okay, we get breaks way more than they deal with our shit. And if
Literally.
you think you're on top of it, cool, keep doing it. If not, fucking rock on. Thank you, moms. We love you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are ending
Yep.
episode 10.
Episode 10.